how do we get over the Sunday Scaries? Better yet, how do we help our children do the exact same thing? In this week's episode of Happiness Happens, I'm so excited to be joined by author Alysson Bourque. She was a former teacher, former lawyer turned full-time author. And in today's episode, we talk about her entire book series called the Alycat Series. This series was created for children in mind to help them get through some of life's most challenging moments. If you're, listening to this episode and you're like, Simona, but I don't have kids, there's still going to be really tangible takeaways for you in our conversation today, because we talk about how things are so much more than the meaning that we give to them. We talk about stress. We give actionable tips on how you can combat the Sunday scaries and different ways that you can completely shift and transform your mindset if you just put a little bit of intention behind it. So without further ado, let's meet award-winning author, philanthropist, and co-founder of Expound Publicity, Alysson Bourque. Alysson, welcome to Happiness Happens. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am very much looking forward to our conversation. We're going to be talking about the Sunday Scaries and way more other things on top of that. I want to first start off our conversation asking you a question that I ask all of my guests when they come on the podcast. And that is, what does happiness mean to you?
So happiness is not a particular moment. It's not something that I actually look for. It's something that I realize. And so every day I try to appreciate the little things in life. Like I woke up this morning, I had coffee outside. The sun was shining. All of those things are happiness. And so I make happiness kind of small, attainable goals.
Ooh, I really like that. And I will say, asking this question so many times on the podcast, I never get the same exact answer twice. But I like that you said this idea of those attainable goals, because I think a lot of the times we go through our life without really having awareness around the things that we're doing every single day, and then how that leads us to the next goal, the next thing, the next milestone, the next opportunity, right? And so finding the gratitude in that is so beautiful. I love that. And so today we're going to be talking about your book.
Mhm.
And what I really like about it is that it's a children's book. And I think that's really cool. So tell us a little bit about it. Tell us about the book. If you're watching on video, she's showing the book right now, which is really cool.
Yeah, so Alycat and the Sunday Scaries was just released last month, and it's the seventh book in the Alycat series. So this was the last book that was released in this week-based series, and I
Mm.
wanted to give readers a tool to be able to conquer their fears. And so throughout the book, Alycat, the main character, will go through different situations with her friends where they have to kind of band together and help each other to conquer those fears. Alley Cat has a fear of Monday, which a
Mm.
lot of us do. And so she inadvertently discovers that Monday will be great and the whole week will be great by the help of her friends and by actually helping her friends.
I love that. And so, where did the creation of this book come from? Because, of course, we talk about, the idea of Sunday scaries. And I think, like the character of this book, a lot of people resonate with this idea of being fearful of Monday. And where and why do you think that happens? Like, where do you think that comes from?
So for me, the inspiration behind writing this book is that, I've been an author, also a publicist for many years,
Mhm.
and I've been in the public eye, especially as an author, doing author visits, interviews. I even co-hosted a news segment. And then one day, about a year ago, I discovered that my nerves were getting the best of me. Like my stomach had butterflies. Of course, it always did, but I was noticing it more. And I didn't know why that was happening. I still don't know why, but I realized that it was time to recognize those feelings, deal with them, and keep doing the things that I love the most, which is author visits and doing interviews and sharing literacy. So I had to develop tools to conquer those things. And so I figured if I'm having butterflies in my stomach about certain things or a Monday, I know kids are too. So that's whenever I decided to write a book of things that you can do to help conquer those fears.
Beautiful. Now, was there anything that you had changed in your routine to combat that feeling or that fear?
Yes. So I usually would skip breakfast at that time.
Mm,
And I'm a mom as well of two teenagers. So I'm always on the go. My
yeah.
schedule is overflowing. I'm usually late, to everything. So I would grab like a cookie for breakfast, run out the door. And then after the pandemic, I had more time on a computer because we all do things more virtually as well.
Yeah.
So I realized that physically I wasn't doing my body any good by eating a cookie for breakfast, sometimes skipping lunch and not exercising. So I shifted and started making that a priority, making myself and my body and my mind a priority. And then I could be the best for others.
I love that. And so for my listener right now who's thinking like, yeah, I have these Sunday scaries as well. And I go into, Sunday night feeling like I just had the best weekend ever. And then I dread Monday and I dread all the stuff that I have to do tomorrow. What would you say to that person in terms of advice or a tangible thing they can do to make it feel less overwhelming?
So I would find one thing in the week that you're looking forward to. It could be
Ooh,
something simple like watching American Idol if you're a fan, just anything small that you can look forward to. If you can't find any of those things after digging deep and finding something you look forward to, find something that you do look forward to and plan for that. So, of course, for me, I love retail therapy. I love to shop. So I'll say, okay, what holiday's coming up or something, and start looking for an outfit or a new pair of shoes, just finding something small that you can plan for and
Mm.
focus on that.
Love that. Love that. There's this interesting thing within our minds. We like to have control, right? We like to be in control. And I think sometimes when we don't feel like we're in control of our schedules, especially, that can be a really hard thing. And so if you're getting up and you're going to a job that maybe you don't love, and then you have to do a whole bunch of things that are serving other people and not you, and like you were saying before, not prioritizing yourself in any sense of the word, then of course you're going to feel that anxiety. Of course you're going to feel that stress and that overwhelm, right? Because you're literally pouring into everybody else except for you.
Yep, yep, and the one thing that we can control, not the one thing, but one of the most important things that we can control is our breathing, and so doing breathing
Mm,
techniques helps you remember that you are in control, and so, just breathing in deeply, counting to 3, and then breathing out, hopefully, that would help to kind of regain that fear of losing control.
I love that. So now with this framework in mind, we bounce back to your book. And so you've created this book and you said it was, part of your daily series, right? So there's 7, right? And so each day of the week, I feel like this is an absolutely genius idea. So I feel like you've created this so that it can be something that can be read every single night before you go to bed, for example.
Mhm. Yes,
Love
and
that.
teachers can use it on a different day, even learning the days
Mm.
of the week.
Oh, I think that's really smart actually, because if you're watching the video right now, you'll see that there's a few other books in the background too. And there's different days of the week are listed right on the actual book itself, which is really cool. And I want to know why for kids specifically. Like, why was it important to write this for kids specifically?
So I have a background in elementary education
Mm,
and I taught school for a year. I also have a law degree. So before I started practicing law, I taught school for 1 year. And that 1 year of teaching first grade made me realize that kids love books and learn so much from characters
mm,
that they can relate to. So that has stuck with me. And I had decided after about 8 years of practicing law to start writing stories and take that time for myself to do what I enjoy. And then my kids were young and I started writing them stories. And I just wanted fun, lesson based books for kids that they can love. And that was the only goal.
I love that. Did you notice any of the themes that you were writing about? Like, did you notice that in your own children? Is that where you drew like inspiration from?
Yes. So the
Mm.
first book was Alycat and the Thursday Dessert Day. And my kids were really little. I mean, this was about 8 years ago, and they have a milk protein allergy. And so they would go to dessert day at school, which happened to be a Thursday. And at the time, there weren't other options for ice cream. There was only a milk base. And so they would essentially miss out on dessert day and they felt left out. So I wanted them not to be sad about it, but create your own happiness. So we ended up making dessert that was milk free and bringing it on dessert day along with their ice cream that the other kids could
Oh.
have, and it became something that they could take part in and have, dessert day together. So it's a tribute to creating your own happiness even when you feel left out or wronged in life. So
Mhm. That's really cute. And I think that's a really cool thing for kids to be able to grasp because I feel like nowadays there's so much judgment just on all levels, like on an adult level, but especially on a kid level. Like if you're not part of the friend group or if you're left out of the thing, it's a big deal, right?
yes, it is, especially at a young age, around 6 to 8 years old. If you're not invited to a birthday party, that's devastating. And so
Mhm.
I want those who maybe feel left out to create their own happiness. So maybe have your own gathering or something, even with your family or your cousin that day, and create your own happiness, even though you felt left out.
I love that. Is this like a really good lesson in creating your own story and like carving your own path and not necessarily, feeling like you have to follow in the footsteps of everybody else around you because that's what everybody else is doing. And so, from the creation of these books, so you were saying to me earlier that your girls are older now. And when you wrote these books, they were younger. Do you think, or how do you feel the stories that you wrote for them have influenced the people that they've become now?
So I think that they have become more flexible
Mm.
with the books. They used to read all of them and now they're teenagers. And so I don't know if they've even read the latest Sunday Scaries, but maybe when they're adults, they'll read it.
Yeah.
So I do feel that they've learned to be a little more flexible and create their own happiness by using the tools within them. And so each one of the books has a separate lesson. Like Cattywampus Wednesday was written after the pandemic, where everyone felt the world was upside down. So it gives kind of tools on how to approach those. And it's not tools in your face. You just get to see how these cats react to situations. And then hopefully readers will say, okay, yeah, that was a great way to handle that. And so maybe I will. So I do think my kids have learned to become more flexible. I think that they're more creative. And I actually include them when I'm stuck on something like an ending or, a character. And I think that they take pride in seeing the series out there. So hopefully it was a good thing for them.
I love that. I feel like it helps reshape their mind and think outside of the box. I mean, obviously I don't know your children, but I can just imagine that reading lessons like this almost every single day or having a resource like this to fall back on opens your mind to way different perspectives. And I think too, again, like we were saying before, like when you grow up, like it can really be like it's a one track mind. You know what I mean? It's like the most important thing is fitting in, right? But maybe that doesn't become the most important thing, and maybe your books are a lesson to why it's okay to stand out on your own.
Yeah, and by you asking that question just made me reflect on my journey as an author, from being a
Mm,
teacher to an attorney, now an author and a publicist for other authors, that they have seen me become more flexible, but also do the things that I love to do,
mm,
um, and go for those things that make you happy, and also that they saw me struggle with querying different publishers and agents trying to get picked up. And I
yeah.
had over 200 rejections. And so they saw me attempt to deal with that with grace. I mean, I'm not going to just sit here and say I was so graceful. No, I was very sad, but I kept going. And so I hope that they saw that too, that you
Mhm.
can pivot from something that you're not quite enjoying and then work really hard and keep doing it, even though people say no.
I love that piece of advice because, okay, you said 200 rejections, right?
Mhm.
That is something that would make people stop completely and like not continue on. But there's this massive realization of when you don't push towards the thing that you feel called to do, there's so much untapped like learnings for other people who are on the receiving end of that. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you hadn't continued on and tried just one more time, think of how many kids wouldn't have the resources that they need, or like how many teachers wouldn't be able to reference these books. That is really, really cool. I love that.
It's so funny with the series. We joke about how it's taken us on this journey because, I've partnered with Operation Shower with the
Mm,
books, and it helps. They bring military baby showers to women who are pregnant
mm,
and their husbands might be in the military. And so they give them a huge baby shower and they go all over the nation. So I donate books for this, and we get to go and be a part of it and see the joy that it brings. And just everything. I mean, Alycat opened up for the Kids Bop concert here in Louisiana. It's been such a great ride. And I feel so fortunate and blessed that I did just keep trying to knock on those doors to get someone to say yes.
absolutely. And I think too, yeah, I just think that this is super, super powerful because I think it's very easy to stop. It's very easy to give up. It's easy to be like, well, you know what? This is it. Like they said no. And, there's no more for me. But when you feel, and I don't know if you feel this way, but like when you really feel like there's something like within your soul, like there's that fire that's burning within you, that nothing is going to stop it. And you're going to get exactly where you need to be. The author journey, I feel like is not an easy journey whatsoever. I'm not an author yet. I have a book in me, but yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about in your own personal pivots from teaching to being a lawyer to being an author? Like those are some really big pivots. And I feel like a lot of your self-worth almost can be tied into some of those things, especially as a lawyer. You think of like lawyers, it's like, oh my God, that's so cool. But so how did you just step into the next thing? Like when you realized that the thing you were in is no longer for you?
So it's kind of like what you said. There was a fire inside of me that
Mm,
just kept burning and saying, there's something else that you need to be doing. And of course, I'm very faithful, but I really, really trusted that feeling and said, there's something more for me, and it wouldn't go away. And
mm,
that feeling wouldn't stop. And so I just kept trying. And so within the series, every time a book is released, I question myself and I say, is this going to be it? Are people going to not want the books anymore? And things just keep working out. So I just keep pushing and keep going and
mhm.
going. So I have two more books in the works for the Alycat series that I'm excited about. And I'll just keep doing it as long as it works out.
I love that. I love that. Are we allowed to have like a sneak peek on the next two books?
Yeah, so Alycat and the Copycat is the next
Oh,
one. So that'll be out in 2025. And then the Alycat Christmas Cookie Exchange will be in 2026.
Oh, I love that. Those sound really, really nice. And then who knows from there, like maybe there's all kinds of other different ones that branch off from there. This is really cool. This is really cool. And so for parents listening, teachers listening, educators, guardians, or whoever listening right now, where can they find your book? And what is one thing that you really hope that they gain, but also the kids gain from reading it?
So they can find the books and more information about me and my author journey at my website, alycatseries.com. And it's Alycat. It's spelled a little bit different. And so with the newest book specifically, I just hope that readers and listeners can realize that bravery isn't the absence of fear, that bravery is doing something despite the fear and conquering that. And so that's what I tell myself every day and I work towards. And I hope that readers and listeners will do the same.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And Alysson, I'll have all of the links in the notes below so people can grab your books very easily and check out your journey and more about you. I'd love to ask you my last question. It's a question I've been asking on the podcast for a long time. And it is, what is one way that my listener can create a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
So, because I am such an advocate for books, if there are any books that you have on your shelf that you've read or you no longer want to read, Donate it to
Mm.
a little free library, a school, anyone, maybe a neighborhood kid, and share those books. It's so great to be able to read and share that with someone who may be less fortunate that can't maybe afford a book.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Happiness Happens. Be sure to connect with both of us. Let us know what you love from our conversation and check out Alysson and her entire series of books at the link in the show notes below. I hope you have a beautiful day today. Thank you for being here. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.